Okay, my friends, this is our monthly live Q&A, and normally this is behind the private doors of Proclaim Truth Collective, but today I invited Melissa to come and go live on our Proclaim Truth page because we are talking about a question that has come to us from the Proclaim Truth Collective, and also pertains to something we just discussed at the conference. And if you were not at the conference or a part of the collective, we wanted to share this with you all, and just have a discussion. And here's the thing, we are coming live from a program called StreamYard into Facebook. So if you happen to see this and you want to ask a question or comment, say hello, we would love for you to join in on this conversation. You just have to click on StreamYard, give it permission, and then anytime you say something, we will see who you are. Otherwise, it just says Facebook user. We'll talk to you that way as well, because we know you're a real person back there. So say hello, and we would love to have this discussion with you. And so, Melissa, thanks for joining me. We're all back home. I have a bit of a cold, post-conference cold.
Yes,
I feel like
it's a real deal.
all around, but we're surviving, right?
Barely. We're hanging on just like everybody else, trying not to get the flu.
Yeah, Melissa went home to the flu. I went home to a cold, but we're getting there. So, Melissa, what is the question that came in from actually one of the member who joined the collective she was the very first member of Proclaim Truth Collective, and it was our friend Elizabeth. She is adorable. So she has a question that she picked up from the conference. What's that question?
All right. So Elizabeth was listening to Jen Wilkin, one of our main stage speakers. We studied the doctrine of the church. If you didn't go to the conference, she was listening to Jen talk about the doctrine of the church as it's described in scripture as a spiritual family. And from that metaphor, Jen was calling for, spiritual mothers and spiritual sisters to step up and to step out into that role to other members of the body. And so Elizabeth's question was this, I've heard spiritual mothering. I know what that is, but what does that really look like in everyday life? Like when you live out that role of being a spiritual mother and also spiritual sister to some degree, what does that look like? And it is a bit of an interesting question to ponder, because I think culturally, depending on where we live, the time that we're raised, maybe even our own experience, what it looks like to be a mother differs. And so when you're trying to import all of that into Paul's meaning and grapple with that, you can stumble. You can come up against some stumbling blocks and really fleshing out what it is he intended for us to take away there. But it is a very important role. It's a very high calling. It's an esteemed role in scripture. It's one that he esteems. It's not a lesser role. But I think in terms of being a spiritual mother, we just take it at face value. We are to be a mother, just like we would nurture our own children in our home, or nurture our own grandchildren. Being a spiritual mother is basically that, nurturing other family members so that they can grow and they can flourish in their knowledge and of Christ and their worship of him. So I think that's kind of a vague, broad stroke definition, but that's really the way I would look at it, because I think that that's a universal application of motherhood that we're nurturing.
And I want to say hi to Jade. Our friend Jade and our friend Heather are here, and they said, and Heather says that she's been pondering this since the conference as well. I think one of the things that Jen did well, she does a lot of things well. That's not what I mean. I think something that she was trying to make emphasis on is that she even asked, like, how many of us are sisters? She gave an example of what it's like to be a sister, thinking about if you are a mother, or everyone has a mother, right? And we all have those examples of mothers, and what it's like if you are a sister. And what our experiences are may not be reflective of the goodness of
Right.
what a mother is, a spiritual mother, and what it's like to be a spiritual sister. She talked about the competitiveness between sisters and um, different ways that mothers may hover or whatever. And so I think she actually was juxtaposing like spiritually, what is it like, may not
Mhm.
line up with what we see culturally. And so
Yes.
I think what spiritual motherhood is not, and you and I have talked about this as well, it's not homemaking, because homemaking has looked so different in so many different cultures and generations, right? And
Right.
the number of women who may equate spiritual mothering to um, homeschooling, or the way that you choose to, you know, take care of your baby as an infant, whether it's bottle or breast, like, but I love what we've done in the collective. Once that question was asked, women, lots of different women who are members of the collective were able to answer. And some of our friends, like Bana, is not a mother in the physical sense, but she's able to say, as a spiritual
Yeah.
mother, this is how I function in the church. And she does such a beautiful job of that. And we've had those examples of women in our own lives. I had a woman in my life that I grew up with. Her name was Linda Butler, is Linda Butler. Um, she has no children. And she mothered me so well and so beautifully, and kept pointing me to Christ and pointing me to God, and kept reminding me of my identity. Um, and she did that really well as a spiritual mother. And I think
Yeah.
also, yeah, go ahead. What were you going to say?
Well, I was thinking very often the passage that we pin all of our understanding of what it is to be a spiritual mother is in Titus, where Paul
Mhm.
calls women to be teachers of good things to other women.
Yeah.
Um, that, of course, is in the context of he's talking about the home, and so I think that's where we get the cultural application of I'm going to be a spiritual mother, and here are all my casserole recipes. Um, but the way I
I
mother
love
is
a good
going to look
casserole.
differently. Yeah. The way I mother is going to look differently from the way that you mother, Angie. And so I think Paul, if you look at the broader purpose of the book of Titus, it was for the health of the church. I think
Mhm,
you get that bigger redemptive picture of what's the purpose of spiritual
mhm,
mothering is, just like you were talking about your spiritual mother that spoke into
mhm,
you. It's going to look different depending on where you live and what God has called you to do and what your gifts are. The
mhm,
goal will be the same, even if it looks differently.
mhm.
And so we don't have to worry, like, am I doing this right? Because if we are like-minded with the scriptures and that goal to push people towards Christ, then we are being a spiritual mother.
Right. And we're being aware of what God may be calling us to. We're looking around and asking God to direct our paths and direct our attention to the things that are needed. Um, and we're walking in that because we have the Spirit. That's something that Colleen talked about. We have one Spirit. And I thought
That's
that
right.
was such a beautiful reminder.
The other thing
Speaking,
I wanted to say,
yeah.
Angie, if I could, this is kind of like a getting into the nitty-gritty on Greek translations, but I
Oh,
this
yes.
this thought just popped into my head. Okay, so most of our English translations are based on what we would call the Alexandrian text, which is like it just comes from Egypt and Alexandria. The oldest translations come from there, and so that's where you
Yes.
get the word that women are to be home workers, the
Okay.
idea of being busy at home, and that's where we get the cultural application of here's my casserole recipe.
Okay.
But that's not the only strain of text that we have in the Greek. We
Mhm.
also have one that's called the Byzantine text, and in
Yes.
that text, which it's not as they're not as old, but they're much more of those. But from that text, that word to be a home worker is actually translated in the Greek to be a home guardian. And so it really gives it a kind of a different sense of what spiritual mothering entails. It's
Mhm.
not just encouragement, but it,
Mm,
it, it does have, like all mothers have, this very protective sense, not in being a helicopter mom, of course, but in having someone's best intentions at
yes.
heart.
Mhm.
Um, so it gives it kind of a different coloring.
Mhm.
Of course, when you look at the collective, ladies, if you're in the collective, and if you're not, please join us. We are just finishing up our study of Titus, so all of this is like top of mind for me. But
Yes.
Caroline Smiley just finished wrapping up Titus 3, and she gives this beautiful explanation of the word good
Mhm.
and what it meant, especially for the original listeners.
Yeah.
And it really points us, mothers and sisters, back to our original larger redemptive purpose. So that's
Mhm.
a tease for all you ladies that are in
Yes.
the collective. You're going to have access to that. It's phenomenal.
Okay, so let's talk about that. So in November, what we've been doing this year, because we normally are going deeper into what we've studied at the conference. We did not have a conference at the beginning of this year. And so Melissa was able to take us on this journey of reading we love the inductive Bible study method. We love studying a whole chapter and studying in context. And so what Melissa was doing is saying, hey, let's read this chapter, this book in context of the whole. And how do we find the theme of the biblical text? And it has been such a beautiful journey. We used Ruth, so we wanted to do an Old Testament book, and now we are in Titus, and we chose books on purpose that have 4 chapters, right? Because we wanted to break it down.
Well, Titus has 3.
Titus has 3, but that's okay. We're having 4 lessons, right? So
Yes.
or 5, yeah, because we had an introduction. So if you are joining the collective now, because right now we have the doors open, you can become a member right now. You can participate still in this Titus study. It's all available to you when you come in on November the 1st, because if you join right now, you will start becoming a member. We'll kind of onboard you this week. And then November the 1st, the floodgates open and it's all available. There's a ton to learn, but you can catch up with Titus. And so we're doing Titus 3 this month, correct? And then next month will be the wrap up, right, for Titus, and it'll be beautiful. And then in January, we will start our deep dive into the doctrine of the church. So, and that's when we'll start resharing everything that we did at the conference. So if you weren't at the conference, it's your opportunity to really be able to soak in everything that we learned from the conference. If you were at the conference, it's your chance to re-listen. I mean, how many times have I reread a book? And every time the Lord just is able to flood me with some information that I probably would not have understood had I not read the book the first time, right? So it's important to revisit what we're learning. So each month, the rhythm is on the first week of the month, you receive the teaching, the doctrinal or belief teaching that we're wanting to really go into deep. The second week is an interview, and we're looking at maybe changing that up a little bit in 2023. And then the third week is a workshop. So at the conference, you only get to choose 3 workshops. You will have 12 new workshops plus every workshop that's available inside the collective that you can search the collective and find the answer. And we're building those all the time. So we're excited to share a workshop. And this month will actually be Colleen Searcy has done a 2-part series of women in the Bible. And so the second part will be shared in November. And then the third week is right here. This is our live Q&A, and we would love to invite our members to come and be a part of this. And you can ask questions all throughout the month. You can ask privately, you can ask in the group, you can ask on the live, I guess, if you want to. We like time to think about our answers though.
Yeah, sometimes I'm not an external processor. I know some people are, but I really just kind of think I like to be. Yeah, I know. It's she's like, what do you think about this? Let's just talk about this. And then she'll just, spout out all of this stuff. I'm like, how do you do that? My brain just does not work that quickly.
Well, I think part of it is I've learned that sometimes I'm not right, and I'm okay with someone going, "You're not thinking straight on that."
You self-correct. See, that's another life skill.
Verbal processing. I'm okay with being wrong if someone's around to correct me. So I accept that correction. So that is our monthly rhythm. I don't know if I glazed over that. I will tell you that at proclaimtruth.com is where all of this is written out. It'll give you a clear picture of what Proclaim Truth Collective is all about. You have until October 31st, yes, Halloween, to join us before November the 1st when we start a whole new month in our new rhythm. So that is the collective. Anything else, Melissa? Did I leave anything out that you can
No, I
think
would
of?
just say that when we post our teachings, they are doctrinal in nature. So they will
Yes.
cover some sort of doctrine, how to apply it. The practical workshops are developing skills for
Mhm.
discipleship, for mentoring, for
Yes.
learning how to teach the Bible. So they're very different. So it's not just you're just flooded with all this content. It has very different purposes in your life as a collective
Mhm.
member. So wherever you are, whatever your calling is, whatever it is that some skill you want to develop, you'll have the opportunity to do that. And we're always adding more and
Mhm.
brainstorming ways that we can better equip all of our collective members.
Mhm. Yeah. And I think that's a really good point because I was talking with someone yesterday about the collective, and we were talking about how when you come into the collective, we are not extra busy. This is not like you doing a Bible study in your home church because we expect and know that so many of our women, Heather and Jade, who are here with us right now, they are serving in their local church.
Yeah.
Jade actually leads a Bible study every Tuesday night. Heather is working with children and women, and they are actually planting a new congregation in Pennsylvania. And so they're busy. So it's not like we can come along and add lots of hours of extra work to your growth. We're just wanting to be consistently here for you to support you when you need it. Heather was able to call on us when she needed. She was like, "Hey, we're doing this. We're taking two congregations and we're adopting new people and we're all melting together. How do we do this?" And we were able to talk about that and brainstorm in a live Q&A like this with Heather. And so my point is that this is not going to be an extra burden on you. You're not doing, your third Bible study of your life. We're here to come alongside you, and we're doing it in a way that's hopefully helpful and not burdensome. But we are always learning and we're always ready to grow. And so we're just coming alongside and doing that together. And it's extremely valuable. So.
It is.
Well, if you have any questions, if you catch this live later, or Jade or Heather or whoever else is with us right now, feel free to add a comment, a question here, and we will be happy to answer that. Melissa and I are, do we consider this as a joy for us? And so we would love to welcome you to the collective when you can come, right?
Come on, gals.
Come on. Okay, friends, we're going to go and take care of our families and everything else. Let us know if
And
you have
take
any
some, yeah. We're going to
questions.
take our vitamin C now.
Exactly. Or just drink another cup of coffee.